On today's Locked On Senators, in a shocking twist, the Sens went down to South Florida and took 3 of a possible 4 points against the Lightning and Panthers on back-to-back nights.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen for you today. It's Alex, Sens fan in QC.
Phenomenal conversation with him. We'll get into that. Plus, how do you fix Josh Norris? That's all coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 986 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Wednesday, February 21st, and Pilsy, the Senators are 53 games into this season, and I still cannot narrow down what the heck this group is.
Yeah, I mean, they lose the games they're supposed to win and win the games they're supposed to lose. And just when you think you've got a beat on what this team is and what they can do, they completely flip it around on you. So we used to be making sense of the Sens, Ross, but we had to switch that name because we could not make sense of this team, and we still can't. In 86 episodes in, we're still trying to figure out how to make sense of the Sens.
Well, we figured out how to cover this team. You guys were in the postcast last night, Martian, Pilsy. My take on the game is what a battle. I mean, talk about a team that you give up the first shot of the game for the how many time this year? Citizens, let us know in the comments, how many times has Ottawa given up a goal on the first shot? Completely deflating. But they battled back on the second half of back-to-back, scored 2 goals in the third period against a shut-it-down squad, the Florida Panthers, for my money, the best team in the Eastern Conference. And to force overtime, I thought that was a very strong sign. I know that it didn't finish off well. You probably wish Brady scores in overtime. Certainly he did. He was pretty, I'd say riled up would be a fair assessment of how his post-game availability was. Really hard on himself. But Brady, I thought, he had a couple chances during the game too. He had that breakaway. He was in all alone, but couldn't beat Sergei Bobrovsky. And he even got a few blockers to the face for good measure in the third period, even though that was actually Shane Pinto's stick that was jamming away at it. But Bobrovsky saw red and went after the first player that was wearing the other team's jersey. But Pilsy, I just have to give this team credit. It's almost like Thomas Chabot took a hip check and he flipped this game on its own head as he went out there, scored the next shift, and then ultimately got an assist on the game-tying goal, even though that was a phenomenal individual effort from Timmy Superstar.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game, like we always say, the postcast, we vent or revive. Well, it wasn't a vent cast, it wasn't a vibe cast, it was a fine cast. I have no issues with the effort they gave there. Wasn't really, I mean, there may be one player, but there wasn't really a lot of players where you're like, wow, they need to step it up big time here. A couple of the stars, like you mentioned, Brady, Timmy, Thomas Chabot, I thought they had good games. Drake Batherson, I thought that was one of his best games in a while. He was ripping the pill. He had a couple really good shots on net and a couple good chances. None of them went in for him, unfortunately, but definitely he looked better than he had recently. So, and then Korpisalo, sure, the first and the last goal you don't love, but ultimately I kind of revisited those. They're still good shots. You want one of 2 of those to be a save more times than Korpisalo is doing for you, but I'm not putting a lot of blame on him for that loss. It was a solid game up against a good team.
Yeah, there were a lot of times, especially in the first period, where Florida had a couple of really good chances, and One thing that I do love from a team standpoint, though, is this team was also getting help from the back end. This is back-to-back games now where the Senators' commitment to defense and to blocking shots has come through in spades. They had last night 29 block shots, and I believe it was 25 against Tampa on Monday. So it's a well-earned day off today for the team traveling back to Ottawa. They'll take on a pair of tough teams coming up. Dallas Stars are going to be really mad at themselves the way they doubled New York Rangers in shots yesterday night and lost 3-1. They got goalied by Igor Shesterkin, and the Vegas Golden Knights will take on Toronto at home tomorrow, and then they will start their road trip in Ottawa on Saturday. And I don't have to go over the stats to let you know that the Vegas Golden Knights absolutely own the Ottawa Senators and have on the ice, off the ice, you name it. But we're going to put that stone at T-Mobile Arena if we can get in there, because I know the draft's at the Sphere, Pilsy, but we need to switch up the feng shui in Vegas to get Ottawa some wins. But we'll look forward to that tomorrow and Friday on Locked On Senators. I'm with you on Korpisalo. This is not a blame Korpisalo game, but it's one of those where the other goalie was better than he was. And Paul Maurice, I always like listening to Paul Maurice speak after games. He's very thoughtful with his answers. And he actually hated the way the Panthers played that entire game. He thought they were slow to get to pucks and that there was a natural regression coming after scoring 9 goals and then scoring early. He's like, I kind of figured my guys would think this is easy. Wasn't the case. He was shuffling his lines up. But one thing he said is that throughout the season, Sergei Bobrovsky has only had to be as good as his counterpart. But tonight, he was better. And I would agree with that assessment. To me, got to tip your cap. Sergei Bobrovsky earned that win for the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, hey, that's a $10 million goalie. If you're the Florida Panthers, you're probably hoping he's able to do that for you. And Bob has certainly turned things around from when he started in Florida to last season and this season playing a lot better. So that's massive for the Florida Panthers, who have probably Stanley Cup aspirations again this season. And there's no reason not to, because they're a great team.
I only have aspirations for the Senators to finish ahead of the Montreal Canadiens and Buffalo Sabres. They're 3 points back right now with 2 games in hand of both of those teams, who happen to be playing head-to-head on this Wednesday night. So no overtime, please. And whoever, may the best team win. And we'll leave it at that for those guys. Well, let's zoom in more on this game. Josh Norris went 7 minutes where he had 1 shift at the start of the third period, really when the comeback started for the Senators. We mentioned on yesterday's show, he played a season low 13 minutes and 19 seconds. Well, guess what? He played even less in last night's game. So what can this coaching staff do to get Josh Norris back on track? We'll get into that next. And then a SensCentral Citizen. Always love having guests on this show, passionate Ottawa Senators fans. So we'll wrap up with Alex on the show later on. This is Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one simple place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools. They got instant match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resume on Indeed match your job description, and you can invite them to apply right away. Sit back, relax, let Indeed do the hard work for you. Sponsor a job, and boom! Instant Match shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. Join over 3 million other businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you got to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. You can do same game parlays. I love doing that. They've got exclusive props and more. One bet that I've been all over the last 2 games, and well, they both hit, is Connor Bedard anytime goal scorer plus 185 with a shot like that. I'm just cheering for it. And he scored actually 2 goals last game. Only one of them counted, but that's all you need to hit on the anytime bet. You can also bet on shots on goal. Lots of great props, all available to you on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Shoot your shot because FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Right, Pilsy, here we are wrapping it up. It's a back-to-back situation where even at the best of times, when you were going through win on the February schedule, you said 1 out of 4 points in South Florida would have been a success. They get 3 out of 4, and we're sitting here saying, what could have been? But what could be with Josh Norris is where I want to take this, because look, Josh Norris has played now 46 games this season, which is only 20 off of his career high 2 years ago. He's played 600 minutes, and still, it's just the production has not been up to standard. Only 7 goals at 5-on-5 for him this year, and I think it's more beyond goals at this point, Pilsy. He just lacks confidence out there. So how do you produce confidence in a player who's clearly lacking it at the moment?
Ross, if I'm Daniel Alfredson, the coaching staff, the next practice I have available, I'm putting Josh Norris on the right side of the power play. And for half an hour, Thomas Chabot is just feeding him one-timers over and over and over and over and over and over again, because that's his bread and butter. Like, I feel like every Sens fan is sighing and screaming out in unison on the power play. When Josh Norris gets the puck on the left side, he looks lost out there. He's trying to sidestep over to get a better lane. And by the time he's done that, there's already a defender on him. The lane's blocked. The best he can do is shoot into some shin pads. And look, Josh Norris has a nice wrist shot, but where he makes his dough is the slap shot, the one-timer. So I know that he hadn't had success over on the right side for most on the power play for most of the start of this season. And that's why they're like, hey, okay, we got to try switching it up here. But honestly, maybe this is classic definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. But I'm putting him back on the right side, even if, Ross, it's strictly as a decoy, because we know other teams now are smart to the fact that when he gets it in his sweet spot in his office on that right side, he can blast it. So maybe they're paying extra attention and covering him a little closer. Cool. That should open up more space for the rest of the power play guys on the ice there. So for me, and maybe this is just meatball hockey fan thinking, and the coaching staff, obviously Daniel Alfredson knows better than I do, and he's involved in it. But it's just wild to me that they're not continuously having him on the right side, because it seems like a waste of time having him on the left.
And it almost looks like they're trying to give him a little slingshot. This is what they did with Tim Stützle, another left shot who was playing the left side on the power play for too long. They're trying to get it so he's curling up and grabbing the puck with speed. The only problem with that is that his stick is still with the outside closer to the boards, so you're giving the goalie extra time to adjust, and you're also giving yourself less of an angle to shoot from. So I don't understand it at all either.
And the thing is, too, with Timmy, that's fine, because Timmy can facilitate. He can be a playmaker. He can move better. Josh Norris, he said it himself, not a disher. Go back to that mic'd up video from practice, 2 years ago or whatever it was, and he's trying to pass it over to Batherson. He's like, number 9, not a disher. Like, it's just obvious that that's not in his skill set, and that's fine. If you're paying a guy almost $8 million for the next 7 years, and he's a 36 goal scorer, and I believe, Ross, you can fact check me, but I believe that year where he had all those, it was 36 goals, right? Or 35?
35 in 66 games. So I can see where you got the 6 from.
Yeah. Okay. 35 in 66 games. I'm pretty sure he was tied for the league lead in power play goals that year.
Well, I can tell you had 19 power play goals in 66 games, 16 power play goals and 19 even strength goals that year.
Yeah, like
8
I don't
game
know.
winners.
I think you can't fix Josh Norris until you get him hitting those one-timers on the power play in his office again. It's unfortunate he doesn't really have the B game you would hope he has, but you got to get him back to that. If you're asking me and Ross, it's tough because it's going to change your lineup, which your other lines are doing good. It's time to split up Drake Batherson and Josh Norris.
So it's time to split up Drake Batherson and Josh Norris. I agree with. I will take it a step further. I think it's time to move Josh Norris to left wing. There's a lot of talk about that from the fans' perspective when
that's where I was on. Yep.
That Shane Pinto was coming back into the lineup, but they moved Ridley Gregg over. And Ridley Gregg hasn't been playing his best hockey recently either. You expect those ebbs and flows from a true rookie. I guess you're not true rookie, played 20 games last year, but a guy who's still kind of making his mark in the league. Whereas for Josh Norris, his next game will be the 180th of his career. Like, this guy, I don't want to call him a veteran yet, but he's certainly getting to that point as a guy who's 24 years old and who's going to be a leader on this team. You would hope for many years to come. He'll actually be 25 in May, Pilsy. Like, he's entering the prime of his career, and it sucks that he's missed a lot of time with injury. Even the year he had 35 goals, he missed 16 games. And then last year only got to play 8, and it was really 4 and then 2. And then the other 2 games he left with injury and didn't finish them. So I get that he's missed a lot of time and that it's hard, but like 2 of his goals came in the first game, Pilsy. Like, this guy has really been struggling to put the puck in the net. So I look at what way can you fix this? Well, why don't you try to put him in a position where maybe he doesn't have to think as much on the ice? Because we know that he's a very thoughtful person. When you hear him in interviews, like, I think he's very much in his own head about the struggles on the ice that he's going through. And I think to play the wing, not that it's easy, but I think there's a less thinking that you have to do on the ice. And if he could just be the trigger man on a line where you have a playmaking center. Look, I don't want to break up the Stützle, Joseph, Giroux line, but if you're going to put him somewhere, why not put him at left wing there, where you have a true playmaker at right wing, speed down the middle, and a true number 1 center in Tim Stützle? I just want to see, just for a little bit, what it would look like if Josh Norris was in that position on the wing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ross. I think that's where I would put him as well. And then the nice thing about that is you get to reunite that Joseph, Greg, Tarasenko line that had a lot of success for a short span, but they were really good.
So we're juggling then, because that would leave a line of Shane Pinto, Brady Tkachuk, and Drake Batherson, and I kind of like that too.
I don't hate that. Yeah.
And then the 4th line is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to just put Parker Kelly and Penn there, and then whatever else happens. So
yeah, whatever else happens. Belleville plays tonight. We'll touch on that at the end of the game, at the end of the show here. But just to wrap up the conversation on Josh Norris, I still believe in him. We've seen it. Like, he had those 8 game-winning goals that year. He was absolute money, and he was good away from the puck. Now, the one thing, say something nice about Josh Norris, is that he's still snapping back 52% of his face-off. So he's giving the team more possession than he's giving it away. But for $8 million, the standard is the standard, and it's got to be raised a little bit here. And I don't think we're breaking any news with this conversation. I think these are conversations that are being had in the room with Josh Norris. The ice time completely reflects that. And I think that this is a very good opportunity for Jacques Martin to leave a long-term mark on a player and make him understand that when he's not scoring goals the way it came easy to him in the past, there are ways for him to still be an impactful player on this team.
Yeah, and I mean, Ross, the Senators know better than anyone that you can have wingers that take majority of the draws. Like, look at Claude Giroux, Brady Tkachuk. Like, it's not, you don't need to be a centerman to take the draws if you're playing with the Ottawa Senators, so that's fine. I think it is time to at least try him on the wing, especially, Ross, in a season like this. Like, if you're battling for a wild card race, maybe you don't try shaking up your second line center and switching up his position like that. It's maybe a little much, but at this point, you got to try everything and you got to see what works. And if you're new ownership and new management regime, you got to start figuring out who's part of the solutions here and who you might need to move on from. So now's the time to try everything you got.
And we will see it on the ice tomorrow. As I mentioned, it's a day off for the Ottawa Senators. They will take on the Dallas Stars tomorrow night in Ottawa. Dallas has won the last 2 games head-to-head, But before that, Ottawa had won 9 of the previous 11. So tomorrow's game in Ottawa, it's a 7 o'clock start, and the team will be on the ice for a 10:30 a.m. morning skate. So we'll aim to record our episode of Locked On Senators right around them. And I know I keep saying this, but he's a busy man. He really wants to get back on the show. We are working to get Meth on the show on Friday. So we'll see what's next for him. We'll see Meth on the broadcast tomorrow night, and then hopefully he'll help break that down and discuss his memories of being a Vegas Golden Knight again before the game against Vegas on Saturday. Just another thing they stole from us, Pilsy.
And that's many Senators scholars will point to the fact that losing Mark Method in that expansion draft is when everything crumbled.
Well, you know what never crumbled? The SensCentral Citizen segment that we love so much on this show. And we're excited to have Alex join us after a quick word. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and that's also what's going to help keep your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle or level it up to peak performance. They got superchargers, they got roof racks, they got exhaust kits, they got LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that dub. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. You know we love the official bar of the Locked On Senators podcast, the Glebe Central Pub, right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. The Sens shuttle is so back tomorrow night and Saturday night. Get your tickets for only $17 round trip. It is the perfect way to get to and from the CTC. You just show up in the Glebe, have a bite, have a drink, hang out, and then an hour and 15 minutes before the puck drops, they will take you so smooth. Smooth Sue can get you to the game, and she picks you up 20 minutes after the game right where you were dropped off. It's no stress, it's all fun, and it's all courtesy of the Glebe Central Pub Shuttle. So you can get those tickets on their website, GlebeCentralPub.com/online store. You can just check them out. The Sens bus is a tab there. There are game tickets linked. Don't click that. Scroll down and click the box with the game you want your bus tickets with. All the information is available for you there. They also have great vibes at the GCP. At Sens Obsessed always lets us know that the vibes are free at the GCP. They've got the dartboard in there, live music every Saturday for February. There's always something going on. So make sure you're following them on social media, Glebe Central Pub. They're the official sports bar of the Locked On Senators podcast. So make sure that you let them know that LOSP sent you. The vibes are free at the GCP. Go see them at 779 Bank Street, right in the heart of the Glebe. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's Alex. You can follow him on social media at SensFan in QC. Alex, welcome to Locked On Senators. Been a long time coming. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I've had a bit of a cold, so again, the voice is a bit funky, but other than that, it's been great.
Hey, that's all right. No worries. So where are we talking to you from, Alex? Obviously, somewhere in Quebec, I'm going to go ahead and assume, but where's...
Yeah, no, you got that right. So I'm just like maybe 25 minutes north of Gatineau. So I'm in the Gatineau area. Okay. It's a small town called Val-des-Monts, so shout out to people. I don't know if there's other listeners from Val-des-Monts, but it is what it is. But yeah, so it's a bit like an hour drive, let's say, to the CTC, give or take. So yeah, quite the haul, but it's fine.
That's cottage country out there too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, again, I grew up in the area, so I'm used to like being in the rural area. So again, a lot of woods. That's my IP place. So
I love it. So an Ottawa Senators fan out in Val-des-Monts, are you able to get out to many games?
Yeah, well, actually, for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been a half-season ticket holder with my mom. So yeah, getting there, like again, we're grew up a Sens fan. So we used to go there, like I don't know, since I've been like at university a couple of times a year for sure. My parents always had like I think they were called like flex 20 tickets. So it's basically 20 tickets for I don't know how many games you want, basically. So we were like each of the siblings got there like once a year kind of thing, and then they went on. But yeah, in the last 3 years, I've been season ticket holder. So that's, well, again, been great. It's depending on the nights, but yeah, I've been enjoying it for sure.
Because Pilsy, that's an hour and 5-minute drive with no traffic. Like that's a grind. That's like you coming in from Collingwood for a game.
Yeah, that's commitment, right? So again, I was there last Thursday again for the games. The game against the Ducks. So yeah, the ride back home after such losses are painful. Yeah, I thought we left like with like I don't know 6 or 7 minutes to go. It was a snowstorm too in Ottawa that night, so we just figured out just get out of here, and we don't usually do that, but I mean, hey, it is what it is.
I put up the poll yesterday on Twitter, over 2,000 votes. I forget what it's at now, but it was like 64.9% of people said that has been the worst loss of the season. So you got to enjoy that one. And I don't blame you for leaving a little early.
Well, yeah, I would say like, especially the one that I've been this year was the worst. I recall, I think it was last year. Was it like a 5-0 loss against, or I don't know, like the exact score, but against the Canucks, and Brian Reynolds was here. It was like horrible. Like I was like, oh man, can I just get out of here?
That was a tough one to showcase to a potential owner.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? But again, it's been nice. Like I really enjoyed. Again, spending time with my mom, huge Sens fan. So again, it's better when they win, but it's always a good time regardless.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got to get to it. The classic question of a SensCentral Citizen: how did you become an Ottawa Senators fan and keep such commitment going to the game? Like you mentioned, you and your mom, your family have a tradition of doing that. So where did it all begin, Alex?
Yeah, well, my parents, again, my both parents love hockey, but especially my mom, a matter of fact. And again, she grew up as a Montreal Canadiens fan. Again, they were not there at that time, but I think that right away when they moved, she switched allegiance. And then when I was younger, I was more of a, I don't know, sore loser kind of thing. So I was more a bandwagon fan. So I remember early, like again, when the Detroit Red Wings were just like bandwagons in like late 90s and early 2000. But then again, the Sens pick it up, and I was like, okay, so might as well, like the team is right here. Yep. And I was like, and then since then I just kept my allegiance with high and lows, and again, that won't change anymore. But yeah, that's the whole story behind it.
I love it. And who were the first players that really attracted you to the team? Like, I don't know if you were a jersey guy right off the bat, but if you were to get a jersey, maybe the first couple of years that you were following the team, whose name would you put on the back?
Again, well, Alfie's is by default. That's just an automatic. I think if I remember correctly, the first like player that just like stick to mind is Martin Avlat. I think it was like in, I don't know, like early 2000, a series against Philly. He was just dominating. Like the guy was running around. I was like, man, this guy's crazy. So I remember like my two first hockey cards. I went them and picked like I want like those. Like the two were Martin Avlat's. Like so it was other than Alfie. I would say that Martin Avlat was one of my first favorite Sens player. But again, Chera, the heartbreak of like letting him go. And again, at the time, I understand like the allegiance with Redden, but really, you kind of need to, I don't know, look at the longer term too. You have like a monster of a defenseman guy, and I don't know. But again, it's history, right itself. But yeah, I would say like Havlat, Chera were the two first. Yep.
You know, Martin Havlat is 6th on the Senators' all-time playoffs points per games list.
Yeah,
so it wasn't just that.
Yeah,
multiple series.
yeah, he was clutch. So again, I think that's where I like caught my eye for sure.
And something else to note about that with Martin Havlat is he was always like on the third line because they had the right wing depth. It was Hossa, Alfredson, and Havlat. Not bad.
That's crazy,
but that's why I almost laugh when some people are like, you can't have Tarasenko on the third line right now. It's like Jacques Martin is a 3-line coach. He always rotates his 3 lines, and whoever's going that night will play the most minutes. So whether you're 1, 2, or 3 in a Jacques Martin team, it's not like DJ where he's going to ride the top line more so than not. I feel like Jacques really kind of in tune with in-game adjustments and how he rotates out game in, game out. And that just reminded me that he's been that way for more than 20 years. But were you excited when you saw Jacques Martin coming back while we're on the nostalgia train?
Yeah, well, I was kind of surprised. Well, at first it was like kind of the time, I would say, for a change. Probably it was, again, a few weeks later, I would say. But again, it is what it is. But really, I feel like, again, knowing that he's probably just like getting that interim tag, I think it was perfect for the job. Like he picked, basically like put the Sens on the map kind of thing, right? They were like, I know, struggling and stuff, and then he just brought that structure back in the early days. And I feel like, again, the first few weeks, I think that was that adjustment period. But again, at the end of the day, like the players needs to play the way that he wants them to play too. But I feel like, again, I don't know like the exact record, but in the last month or so, they're doing great. Like, again, there's that ugly game again, the Ducks, and I was there for the Rangers game too, which on the Saturday night that didn't go well. So I don't know. I had I don't know, my 20 games out of the again, half of the tickets right now, not looking too good, but it's fine. But really, to go back to your question, Ross, yeah, I feel like it was just perfect. And again, having Alfie there is just great. It brings that calm demeanor from both of them, because again, when you see on the broadcast, you don't see really Alfie speaking too much of players and stuff. But again, I think it's just like teaching them in some specific moments. And I feel like, to add to that, like I think that the 5-on-5 play has been very great lately, which I think that translates to our record. And now if the power play can pick it up, it's going to just be even more. So again, not sure about like some decision, or like, especially like, I don't know, like for example, Norris on not his, like, I don't know, one-timer side.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah, he looks lost. And I think, again, to be fair, he's probably never played that position before. So again, like, what do you want him to do? So again, we all believe in Alfie. So I think he's running the power play. But yeah, well, you need to figure it out something, Alfie.
Yeah, it hasn't been great lately. So we've talked about numerous terrible games you've had to witness live. So I'm going to flip the script here a little bit, Alex. What are some of the best memories you've had going to live games, seeing as you've been to a bunch of games over the years here? Like, what are some that stick out for you?
I'll have to go back in maybe a few years for that. Again, I've been to great games lately for sure. Like, I like season openings are always very nice. That's the vibes. Yeah, exactly. Yep. The vibes are so high, and again, they win both the last 2 years, I think. So it's good. But my best memory will have to go back to, again, way back in the playoffs.
Nice.
I don't know if it was against the Rangers. So Kyle Turris overtime winner. Yep. Again, playoff atmosphere at the CDC is just a different beast. But like that game was crazy, and funny enough, like
2017, right? Not 20, because he had that game winner in overtime in 2012 as well, where he ripped it over Lundqvist's shoulder.
That was the game. That was the game. Yeah. So way back when. But again, funny enough, like we pick up some last minute tickets with that game. So I was with my mom, but we were actually like in 2 different sections, but we were like the last seat on each row. So we're basically like just, I don't know, a few feet away, and then I score, and then Turris score. I jumped, and everybody were like just going nuts. And I had turned back to see my mother, and she was crying herself out. And like, just to show you how a fan she is.
Beautiful.
And I was like, yeah, that's just like core memory, right? Of like spending that time with, again, not during the game, during the intermissions, speaking with her, but just having this memory in my mind of like her crying of joy just to see the Sens score and Sens win. That's crazy. Yeah.
I need playoffs at the Canadian Tire Center because you mentioned
No, I need playoffs at the Canadian Tire Center. I've never been to a single Sens playoff game.
Yeah, that's
Never.
kind of sad when you think about it.
I haven't been to a single playoff game. Like,
it's a different world, man. Did you go to any of the games, Alex, in the 2013 series against Montreal? Because that was
no.
to me. That to me was. Oh my god.
The thing is, with like the Montreal and Toronto games, it's like either you go there and you have like a blast of a time, or you just want to go home and just like bench, or like, I don't know, just walk and looking at the floor kind of thing. Because again, those fans, and again, I get it. It's just like the amount of like sheer people of cheering for other teams just makes it so tough on like the emotion of like, and again, being like from Quebec, especially the Abs fans, like I know a bunch of them. So again, it's a good rivalry, like especially in those like I think 2 years, not back to back, but like in those series with Pajot just like doing his thing. And again, I think in the well, it was about the Hamburger one that we ran into the Habs and they won. But again, they should have started like Anderson at that time. But really, it is what it is. Again, you cannot not start Ammon after just like taking your team back. You had to. But like again, it is what it is. But really, it's fun times. But you're right, Ross. Like at the CDC, like again, from other fan base coming like into like, I don't know, a game on a Thursday night. Yeah, it's not loud. Yeah, it is just what it is. But like you go there in a playoff, regardless of like the weekday, it's just it's crazy.
Oh, it's the best. Alex, we appreciate you joining us. Sens fan in QC. We've talked a lot about the past and a bit of this season. Playoffs, though, ain't happening. So what is a successful remainder of the season for you? Whether it's an individual accomplishment, a team accomplishment, how would you feel good going into the offseason for the last 29 games?
Honestly, I would not count like as win and losses at this point. It is what it is. I just want to like, again, I don't want blowout losses for sure. Like it's just not good. But like if they lose, but like it's very tight. They play good on 5-on-5. Again, if the power play can pick it up, because again, power play is really in the individual at the end. I think they're just tripping their stick. I don't know what's going on. Like Timmy not having a power play goal is just wild.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So again, I think it's just like, again, play the right way. If you lose, you lose. But again, just at the end of the day, that they're there. And again, if it end up like having a nice lottery pick at this point, like we're not again, not that I want to talk about the draft, but really we just have to be realistic at this point, and we're gonna get a nice pick, so might as well be as high as possible. And again, so again, that I would say just play the right way, and then have like, I don't know, just like get your head high for the rest of the year, build on that, and have a good next start of the year next year. I'm asking a lot at this last point, but again,
November will feel different though with the new coaching staff. I'm convinced of that. We can't have the November blues again.
Well, again, now it's like we can blame all that. Like again, we can't blame that all we want like on the coach. But now if like the thing is, like if they go back and not do like crazy stuff, like let's say we don't see a lot of player movement, but again, there will be, but like I'm speaking of the core here, and then they ran into the same thing next year. I'm like, well, guys,
players.
Yeah, like guys, like we've done everything we can here. Like you have to look yourself in the mirror. Like, and the thing is, like we're committed for long terms for a lot of those players, and some of them not like, again, to put names on it, but like they need to pick it up. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yep. Final question for me here, Alex. This has been great. Thanks for joining us. We're glad to finally get you on the pod. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 dates: trade deadline, the draft, and first day of free agency. Which of those 3 dates do you think is going to be most kind of crucial to the Senators turning things around for next season?
I think it's the draft.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to go crazy with free agency. And for the, like, again, the trade deadline, again, they're probably going to move, like, again, some quote-unquote minor pieces. Tarasenko is, like, up in the air regarding of, like, what he wants to do. because again, he can decide, right, with his contract. So again, I think that at the draft, again, first of all, not again wasting picks is just, again, it's tough. Again, you want to project for the future, but again, having a good pick, making a good pick, or again, we have two technically in the first round, so making good picks. But again, I think that they need to decide what to do, like, again, goaltending wise. Like, again, you have Chikrin's contract coming up. Like, will he resign? If not, like, you still have a year left, so that's the best. It's the time. Like, you just don't, if you can move him and get like some players back, so that next year you, like, with this good group of players you're gonna go with during the year for the chemistry wise and stuff like that. So I think that the draft would be good, and I know that you guys will be in Vegas, so I'm looking for that for you guys. That's gonna be pretty wild.
Oh, we can't wait for it, but we also have a long way to go here the rest of the season. So we need some more wins under our belt. And for me, I'm a bit of the opposite, Alex. I'll say, like, I would rather draft 10th and cover more wins the rest of the year than draft 5th and have to deal with a few more ugly losses.
Of course. Yeah, I'm here today. So for me, the podcasting season will probably end today. So I get it for you. Yeah, well, hopefully it's going to be a mix of both, right? Some loss, close loss, but again, I'm always cheering for a Sens win for sure. So,
well, we love getting your insight on this show. Valdemont, stand up. We appreciate you representing out there. Sens.fan.in.qc. You can find him on social media on Twitter. Alex, we appreciate the time. We appreciate you being a Patreon member as well. It really goes a long way, helps us out, and we'll do this again down the road. I know you and Pilsy got to have a longer chat than we did at the home opener, so looking forward to seeing you at the CTC down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, Pilsy, stick taps to Alex for joining us. Really fun conversation with him. Any final thoughts from you on today's show?
Well, let's hope the Ottawa Senators stick to their confusing ways and get games up against opponents that are miles, worlds better than them. The Ottawa Senators are going to win both of those games, obviously.
Okay, we'll get into full delusion mode if they do that on Monday. By the way, we'll note this the next couple days, but Saturday's postcast will only be available on YouTube. We're going through some changes on the back end for our audio podcast platform, so that will only be on YouTube.
Ross, that reminds me, speaking of changes in audio, we are on the hunt for a new theme song, and we got a couple sent to us from Locked On, some copyright ones, and we're vibing with them. It just wasn't the vibe. And the intro, the theme song, is so important to leading you into the episode. It's got to feel right. So we are putting out the bat signal to any citizens listening. If you think you got a jam that could work good for the intro of our podcast, let us know. It's got it. The main thing is it can't be copyright issues. We ran into trouble in the past with that. So it's got to be copyright free. And who knows, if you have the right vibe, the right sound, you could hear it every single day on the Locked On Senators podcast. And plus, Ross, I don't want to just use some random song from a site. If we have someone that made it for us with this in mind, I think that would just be chef's kiss. So, citizens, we are asking for your help.
Sooner the better, because we're coming up to 1,000 episodes, and I feel like that shepherds in a new era.
Debuting it on the 1,000th episode? Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, so keep that in mind. So get those into us. You can follow us on social media at SensCentral, and DM us. We'll get you the information to get those tracks to us. Obviously, we'd be very, very thankful for that. Pilsy, final thoughts from me. We've got breaking news in a sense that right now we are finding out that a hashtag Sens Abroad has been placed on waivers. Pilsy, should the Ottawa Senators claim Colin White off of waivers from Pittsburgh?
I mean, they're still paying him. Would this be the first time ever that a team has a player that they've bought out? Because I know you have to wait the 1 year, so you can't just buy him out and then put him on a cheaper contract to save money, obviously. So that would be interesting. Honestly, I would bring Whitey back just for the vibes. The rat rink is hilarious. He seems like an ultimate goofball in the locker room, and I'm sure the boys all loved him. So that could be fun.
And if you're watching on YouTube, I've pulled up the reason against it. He has 0 points in 11 games so far this season. However, you know,
where's the advanced analytics on vibes?
I don't know, but I can tell you that you wouldn't notice if he took Dominic Kubelik's spot in the lineup anyways. So
right, I'm down for that.
Hurt? No, all jokes aside, though, Colin White is on waivers. Pilsy, great show today. Thank you to Alex for joining us. And let us know in the comments. I'm really curious to get people's opinion on this Josh Norris situation, because I think everybody's seen him be such a good player that it's almost like, and there's people who are like, talking trade about Josh Norris. It's like, you will never sell for something lower than he's at right now value-wise. I just think it would be such a poor bite you in the ass later type trade if they moved on from Josh Norris right now. It's about helping a player within your system reach their potential. We'll cover this throughout this, however long it spans. Tomorrow's a game day preview right here on LOSP. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for listening to the show, watching, subscribing, liking it, reviewing it. Those 5-star reviews really help the algorithm as well. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.